how to survive soaring inflation. I suspect we might be heading into a depression with inflation. Some people call it stagflation, but this one is so severe because we have a global liquidity crisis. There's no money. It's drying up fast. So inflation is up, gold prices are down, real estate's crashing. What else could we ask for? Right, Bert?
I agree with what you said about inflation, especially stagflation. And right now you have to be so careful about who you listen to on the TV, because they're equating now, economists are equating now a slower economy with lower interest rates. If that were true, then Zimbabwe's economy would be booming, and Venezuela, people would not be eating out of garbage cans. This is not true. All these economists, they have the same problem. They believe the textbooks that they had in college. My degree is in chemistry, but I took 2 years of economics just to find out why economists are always so wrong. It's the textbooks.
One day the school teacher said, I said, why don't we have financial education in school? And I was talking about, the income statement, balance sheet, basically a financial statement. I always say my bankers never asked me for my report card yet. My banker wants to see my financial statement. And they don't know what a financial statement is. They say, but we teach economics. I said, which one? And they didn't know there's different economists like Keynesian, Marxist, Malthus, exactly. Adam Smith, Ricardo. These teachers who are economists are more stupid than the students. They don't even know there's different economic theory.
Yeah, it's
very sad. Can't believe it. And I don't have a degree in economics.
So what are you doing to make money nowadays?
Well, I took a gold mine public, the richest gold mine in America. It's in Provo, Utah, went public July 8th, 2022. And our ore grade samples are through the roof, and we're going to take a NASDAQ next year, I think. So, and then I've been a gold bug since Vietnam. I tell the story of I'm on an aircraft carrier flying a gunship for the Marine Corps. So my co-pilot and I flew behind. It was enemy lines because the NVA was North Vietnamese Army had overrun the damn place. So we went behind enemy lines. We disarmed, walked through the village in Vietnam. And all the people go, "What the hell are you guys doing?" He's we're unarmed. We're here. We come to buy gold. And so we walked up to the window. The little Vietnamese woman with bright red teeth, because eat betel nuts, and she was showing us gold nuggets, and I'd never seen gold, and my co-pilot never seen gold, and because it was illegal. Remember, it was illegal for Americans to own gold, and so I tried to discount it. I think it was about $50 an ounce then, and I tried to get it down to 40, and she just smiled her bright red teeth, says, "Spot." So what does spot mean? Do a spot on my shirt or something? But I didn't know at the time. But when I got back to the ship, she educated me. This little Vietnamese woman. Gold is money throughout the world. That's what spot means. So that's what are you doing?
Well, we said about a year and a half ago, we're going to go into a period of time that'll be terrible for people who are not informed.
Correct.
And I agree with your depression. I've been saying that. In fact, in early 2020, we wrote that we're going into a depression. If you want a roadmap, just read about the Great Depression of the 1930s. It's going to be very, very similar, except it will be worse.
Right.
Probably will be much worse.
What can a person do? Because I'm backed up all the way with gold, silver. I have mining shares and all this. I have oil wells. I have beef. I have things the Fed cannot print. That's my claim to fame. I have no stocks, no bonds, no mutual funds, because I just don't like paper. After Vietnam, I didn't trust it. But you're into all these different types of markets and all this. What do you recommend? And this is the worst term is, what does the average person do? And my advice is, don't be average. This is not a time to be average. So what do you recommend?
You want to be in a minority. This is the time you want to be in the minority. Now, you talk about precious metals, and I get this question very often. What should we do? And it's always good to have some insurance position in gold and silver. I kind of prefer gold, but what I really prefer is the mining stocks. The mining stocks, they're not going to confiscate. with the way the government here is right now. It's also very similar in the 1930s, where the government confiscated gold. Okay,
right.
So we could see that again, but they're not going to confiscate gold mines. Okay, so
wait, Bert, hold 1 second. I had my first big gold mine play was in Dalian, China. I raised $27 million on the Toronto Stock Exchange. We struck gold, and the Chinese said, "Thank you." I learned the hard way, Bert. It's called country risk. So do you know what I mean? Different countries will take your gold mines, but America, hopefully, they don't do that here.
You can't be sure about anything over here right now. Things have changed. So, but one thing, you have to be very careful, because the people on TV, they're going to start saying when the Federal Reserve pivots. Pivot is an outer word. In other words, when the Federal Reserve changes from quantitative tightening to quantitative easing again, someday in the future, okay? And then they say that's when you really want to buy gold. In my opinion, well, not in my opinion, research shows that once the Federal Reserve starts easing money from a tight monetary policy, that's when the biggest part of the stock market and the gold mining stocks appears. They tank when the Federal Reserve eases. And this is always a big trap. People think, oh, the Federal Reserve is easing, now we got to buy. No, it isn't. If you look at the charts, this is when you have the last big strong drop in all of these assets.
Right.
So you got to be very careful. And that's why if you look for an advisor, find somebody who has been in the markets for at least 44 years.
Right.
Why 44 years? Because they remember 1978, 1979, 1980. That was a very important period. It was the last peak in inflation in the U.S. What's really important here is to know some history. Many of the analysts that everyone knows, they don't know history, or they don't want to talk about it. But in 1980, we had the peak in inflation was around 15% in the U.S. Okay, now officially we have 8.3%. Okay, officially, but Dr. John Williams, who runs Shadow Stats, he calculates it the way they did in 1980, and he said it's actually 16.8%.
Yep.
So, and that puts us right in the range of all the big countries in Europe and so on. They also have big double-digit inflation right now. So our inflation rate is now much higher. But what the important thing is, our Fed funds rate right now is around 3.7%. Fed funds. That's the short-term interest rates, where the Federal Reserve says that's the rate we want for short-term. You know what it was in 1980 when we had inflation about like it is now? It was 20% Fed funds, 20% rate. People don't mention that. Maybe they don't know it, or they're trying to hide it from people. But there's another thing that is not mentioned. Powell, Fed Chair Powell, not the last meeting, but the one before that, he said our goal is to have the spectrum of interest rates, spectrum meaning from short-term 90-day T-bills, let's say, to the long-term bonds above the rate of inflation.
Oh.
Okay? So even if we take their phony rate of inflation, 8.3%, that means that interest rates will have to double from here. They're going to have to go over 8.3% to fulfill that. Nobody talks about that. Why are they hiding this? He said it. On national TV, he said it, So this is so important. Interest rates are not anywhere near the bottom. This time I think by the time it's all done, Treasury bonds will be down maybe 60 to 70% from the top. Do you know that they're already down 48%?